So far we've been looking at this flowchart with respect to individual sides. So we've been looking at mass to mole conversions and atom to mole conversions and vice versa. However, we have yet to look at going from mass land to atom land or going from atom land to mass land. And what one needs to understand is that we cannot directly convert between mass and atoms. Okay, so in order to convert from one side of the flowchart onto the other, you must go through the kingdom. Okay, so it'll always be a multi-step process in order to do this conversion type. So in the problem that we see here, what they've asked us is to calculate how many atoms are present in a 15 gram piece of gold. Okay, so what that's telling us is that we've been given 15 grams and that they want us to get into atoms. Now, in order to go from mass land into atoms, we first need to go from mass to moles. So our first conversion is going to be a division, and then from moles to atom land, which is going to be a process of multiplication. So what we're going to do is very similar to what we did before. It's just there's going to be additional steps. So the additional steps are obviously going to be carried out or could be carried out in a multi-step process. However, I'm going to show it to you in the sequential format in order for you guys to get familiar and comfortable with this type of methodology. Okay, so just like we've seen in the past, we're going to have 15.2 grams of our gold, which has the element symbol of AU. Okay, so we're going to put that in that first box because that's our given. And then we're going to look at our first calculation. Our first calculation is going from mass to moles, okay, because I can't make a direct conversion between mass and atoms. So in order to go from mass to moles, I must divide by the molar mass of gold. So I'm going to have 1 mole of AU up here, and I'm going to have the molar mass of gold, which off the periodic table is 196.96 grams of AU. Okay, and this conversion alone, if I were to just do this calculation out, I would end up with just moles. Okay, so in order to go from moles to atoms, though, I must utilize Avogadro's number. Now, in order to get out of the kingdom, I need to multiply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of AU here. Okay, and that's per 1 mole of AU. Okay, so notice, the first situation we have here is the calculation for mass to moles. Okay, the second calculation here is the conversion from moles to atoms. So I've written it out in a sequential manner, but this is actually a two-step process. So when we go to do this calculation in our calculator, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 15.2 by 1 and then multiply it by 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. That answer is then going to get divided by the 196.96 times 1. Okay, and that's going to give us an answer of 4.647 times 10 to the 22nd. Okay, now if we account for significant figures, we notice that our smallest number of sig figs is coming from our given, which is 3 sig figs. All right, so we're going to end up with 4.65 times 10 to the 22nd as our numerical answer. Now, we also need to do a dimensional analysis in order to figure out the units of our answer. So grams of AU and grams of AU are going to cancel. Moles of AU and moles of AU are going to cancel. And atoms of AU are what remains. So we'll write atoms of AU. Okay, and this is our final answer. Notice we've gone from grams into atoms. That's what we see based on our dimensional analysis and our unit analysis. And we have the correct significant figures for our answers. So with the problem that we see here, they're asking us to calculate the mass in grams of 245 atoms of gold. So we're going from atom land into mass land. Okay, so in this situation, we're going to put our number of atoms of gold into our given box. All right. Now, in order to go from atom land to mass land, I first must get into the kingdom. So I must get into moles. Now, since I'm starting in atom land, I need to divide by Avogadro's number. So 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd atoms, AU, per every mole of AU. Okay. And then I'm going to go from the mole kingdom into mass land. And anytime I'm leaving the kingdom, I'm going to be multiplying. In this case, I'm going to be multiplying by the molar mass. Okay, so the molar mass of gold is as follows per 1 mole, as we saw in our previous problems. Okay, and what we're going to do once again is multiply all of the top numbers together and then divide by the numbers that are on the bottom. And that's going to give us 2.065 times 10 to the negative 24th. Okay, now to the correct number of significant figures, which in this case is going to be 3. 2.07 times 10 to the negative 24th. Okay, and doing a dimensional analysis, atoms and atoms of AU cancel, moles of AU, and moles of AU cancel, so grams of AU is what's left. So our final answer is 2.07 times 10 to the negative 24th grams of gold.